I'm Ashley Jones from Designs and Machine Embroidery, and welcome to our Software Success. Here, every first and third Tuesday, we talk about tips, tricks, and even making some projects with your dime embroidery software. I love my embroidery software, and I want you guys to love yours too. So I'm sure we have lots of people out there that have joined us before, but tell us over in the chat where you're watching from. And we'll just give a minute for to let everybody hop on before we kind of get into those details. So today we are going to be talking about creating custom quilting designs, and I'm using My Quilt Embellisher. Some of the things that I'm using today can actually be done from our other software like Perfect Embroidery Pro that has built-in motifs which can be used as quilting designs. But we're using mainly the features from My Quilt Embellisher. So, and I think you guys are going to love this episode because I bet there's a lot of people out there starting to do some quilts for the holidays. So tell me that over in the chat. Do you have any quilts planned to stitch and to give as a gift for the holidays? I love quilting with my embroidery machine, and being able to create custom quilting designs is really part of the fun for me, for sure. So we have Laura Parks. Thank you for joining, Laura. Laura is a frequent flyer at our virtual events and software success. So thank you for joining from Lincoln, Nebraska. So thanks for joining, Julie from Michigan. I recognize Julie too. So thanks for joining again. So A. Reichert, thank you for joining from Maryland. And then Maria Soto from Arizona. Hopefully it's nice and warm, I guess, since it's sunny. It probably is. So Linda Johnston, thanks for joining. So hey, Dawn from Creative Appliques, thanks for being here. My friend Stephanie from Caesar, thanks for joining. She says she's ready today. So I know Stephanie uses our software regularly and is always doing some really cool things. Marianne, thanks for joining, Marianne. Also, someone that attends a lot of our presentation and uses our software to its fullest. And Jennifer Alexander as well. Thanks for joining. So Deb from Austin. We've got Kathy from Reedsport, Oregon. And Millie Carter from St. John's, Florida. Thanks for joining. Australia, thanks for joining. So it just says Facebook user. You have to give StreamYard permission to see your name. So, it's no big deal to me, but I certainly will, still answer any questions that you have. But that's why it shows up as Facebook user, just so you guys know. So Sheila Urban, thanks for joining from Massachusetts. And Linda Brooks, thanks for joining us here today. Jennifer Alexander says, I have My Quilt Embellisher and I've barely used it. I need all the help I can get. So Jennifer, I bet you know more than you think you do, just because I know that you are proficient in our other programs. And it's definitely, as you guys know, very easy to use different pieces of dime software when you're familiar with even one of them. So, and Janet Rowe, thanks for joining. She said started to quilt and embroider for Christmas. And so that is awesome. So I'm glad you're on it. So I'm trying to get early this year, get started earlier for sure. So hey, Caroline, thanks for joining. So she's ready to learn My Quilt Embellisher. So we've got lots of people joining. So thanks everybody for jumping in. So Aine McCarthy. So you guys know Aine. She's one of our educators. Thanks for joining, Aine. And good to see you on here as well. And Tina from Los Angeles, California. So we have quite a few people that are already here. And Joyce, thank you for joining from Wesley Chapel. And everybody's still piping in, but I feel like we have a pretty good group. So let's go ahead and just get started kind of talking about what we're going to talk about today. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about My Quilt Embellisher, and I'm going to show you how you can create custom quilting designs. These would be designs that would either fit a specific area of your block. You can also create designs to avoid an area. That could be an embroidery design or even an area on your fabric. So the next time we are here in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about using images. But we have a lot of information that we're going to talk about today. So My Quilt Embellisher is a software program, obviously, that we install on our computer. And, I always tell people when you're thinking about the different pieces of dime software, imagine the name and what the name says to you. So when we say My Quilt Embellisher, think about all the things that embellish your quilt. So the biggest three, I would say quilting stitches, appliques, and your quilt label. So My Quilt Embellisher, those are the big three things that it can do. Now, certainly it can do much more, but when I think of embellishing my quilt, those are the things that I think, and those are exactly the things that we can do with My Quilt Embellisher. So just to give you an idea of just some different things, we're not going to do every one of these today because that would take much longer than the time that we have here. But you can create so many different designs. So you can do echo quilting, you can quilt around an applique or around an embroidery design. You can combine quilting fills, and we're going to see the difference with, we have built-in quilting designs. You can also turn things into applique. So in the center bottom there, that blue and gold quilt square that you see there, that's actually 4 blocks, and the circles I actually turned into applique. So I could applique that onto my quilt fabric to get the look of that block there. So those are some of the things that you can do. By all means, not all of them, but certainly a good representation. You can also create this fun mosaic tile quilting that we call it there in the upper left. You can create heirloom stitches, so are also referred to as crazy quilt stitches. You can also create trapunto or a faux trapunto, and you can draw your own designs. If you look at that design in the bottom right, the coffee cup there, that steam from the coffee cup or the teacup is actually hand drawn, and I drew that right on the screen of my computer because I have a touchscreen computer, and we'll see that and more of that in 2 weeks to come. But even that orange slice that you see there, that is actually a placemat that I designed in My Quilt Embellisher, and each of those wedges have different quilting, and I even appliqued the fabric down, and all of that was created with My Quilt Embellisher. So many things that you can do. I mean, we really never could cover every single bit of it, but I want to get you started. And then, of course, we always will come back to My Quilt Embellisher. We'll be here in 2 weeks for My Quilt Embellisher again. But then, of course, after we switch up and do some other programs, we'll be back to My Quilt Embellisher again also in the future. So, okay, so I'm going to start with this block here. So let me flip over. That's just an image. I'm going to go to my live software here. And I want to start with that block because that one block actually gives you a lot of education in really just one block. Now, My Quilt Embellisher and any dime software, usually these first icons here on the second row, so you can see where my mouse pointer is up here in the top left, those are usually the features that are specific to that program. So the first one is the library of quilt blocks. So if I click on that, it opens up a library, and I can scroll down through these categories, and you see tons of different quilt blocks. These are meant to be used for design purposes. They can be used to create a design. They can also be used as a block that represents the block in your quilt so that you can design on top of it. They can be used for a variety of different things. So, and I'll share that, as much with you as we can get in. And of course, like I said, we'll be back next week. So, lots of fun foundation blocks. And I'm going to head to the log cabin and pineapple category. So if you want to follow along, if you're watching the replay or if you're watching it live and want to follow along, I'm going to start with this log cabin 1 block here. And what I'm about to show you actually will work with any of the built-in blocks, but normally from the library, you're going to choose the exact same block that is in your quilt. So that's how we can create a custom quilting design. So, and then I've got this on the screen. Now, this is actually an artwork block, meaning that it is shapes that I can select that build this block. And I can see that over in my sequence view, it says artwork and it says 0. That means that there are no stitches involved. Okay. So now I'm going to select this block and I am going to make it a little lighter. When I select it, my artwork properties come up and I can change the opacity here. I'm going to drop it down to 60 percent and see what that does for me. So I think that that's probably pretty good. You could always change the colors as well. Changing the colors just allows me to be able to show you on the screen more visibly. When it's really dark, like you see here, sometimes the stitches don't always show up. So I can certainly, adjust those colors like you see here. So now, just a refresher, in any dime embroidery software, if you want to assign the color chip below to the object you have selected, you would select the object and then do a right mouse click and it will assign that color chip to the objects. If you want to change what color is assigned to the chip, you will left click on it and then you can choose a different color and it'll assign that color to that chip there. So just a little refresher on working with your color palette there. So, and I'm going to make this one a little bit lighter as well. If I wanted to, and I could use any of these fills means that you have a shape selected. And when you select one of these fills and click OK, it fills that shape with that quilting design. Okay, so that's a quilting fill. Now I can change the distance between those stitches by adjusting the pattern over here in the right. And okay, so I just got a message that my video is kind of freezing here, and I actually have another computer up that I will switch to just so that doesn't keep happening. And so let me just make that switch here really quickly so that we don't have that problem again. So let me add the screen here. And so while I'm doing this, I'm actually still going to just talk about that block. So the quilting fill, again, you need a shape and then you need to choose one of those quilting fills so that you can shape. So you must have a shape selected, and that is the important part. So, okay, on my other screen here, so let me just do one more switch here before we make that. And it seems to be not liking streaming. I had an issue with that the other day. So let me just switch here. That is better. That's two of me. And there we go. So I think that we are good. We just need to switch to the other software screen. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. So you get to see that all over again. So, okay, so now I'm going to go back and let's go back and choose that log cabin again. And then I'm just going to select that. And again, I'm adjusting the opacity. The only reason I'm doing this is to see what I'm doing on the screen. And that is it. Okay, so now quilting fills, that's where we were. So these icons that you see here, all 6 of these are considered quilting fills, meaning that they are able to fill a shape. So my stippling, if you select one of these options, it lets you select a different quilting fill. And here we can change that one to a different one. This one is grayed out because we don't have anything to echo at the moment. You can also do contour quilting. You can see it follows around our shape, and you can do shape echo as well. And this is actually echoing the shape that you selected, which in this case, I selected the diamond shape here. Okay, so those are quilting fills. You select a shape and you fill that. Okay, so now I'm going to put one fill up here at the top, and then I'm going to put something different down here at the bottom. So let's go back and convert this back to artwork. So I can click this option here to go back to my artwork, and then I'm going to change that over here. And then let's make the fill up top. Okay, so I'm going to select actually all four of these top pieces and choose one of these built-in fills. Okay, so let's click stippling first, because I think this one actually is going to tell exactly what I want to tell. So do you see how each block it added the stippling inside of that block? Now, if you wanted to stipple this top half of your block, and you didn't want this break between them, you could actually combine those so that the software sees it as one. So I'm going to do an undo so that we click combine first. It actually works either way, but I think this way will register better with you. And here, you can see that now they're all the same color, and the software sees that as one object over here in my sequence view. Now when I add my stippling, oh, it still did it. It made a liar of me, but it actually did here in this example. You can see it merged these two together here, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. But I also wanted to merge the others as well. So, and that may be that we need to do them separately and combine them. So if I combine there and then add, and it's still doing it. So of course it's not going to work right when you're live, right? Okay, so I'm going to do an undo, and then I'm going to select those all again. And then let's choose a different design. So like this one here, and you can actually see the lines between them. And I actually think I might know what's happening here. And then when I combine them, it actually took that away. So that's what I was trying to do, only with the stipple. And you can see now I don't have those lines. So if I do an undo, you can definitely see those lines there in between where the blocks were. And then if I select these all and click the combine, the software sees that as one object, so it fills it throughout and doesn't stop at the edges of those blocks. So that's what I was trying to show there. So that is a quilting fill. Now, of course, you can select and you can play with any of these built-in fills and see which one you like. I'm going to increase this pattern length again over here, and you can see that it spreads out and adds a little more space between your stitches there. Now for this side over here, I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to use a built-in design that's under the design embellishments. It's this little gift box in the top. Now, the difference between the fills and these designs, these are actually individual designs, just like if you purchased a package of embroidery quilting designs. These are very similar, but you can see each category has a square, a rectangle, a triangle, and a um, circle design that all coordinate with one another. So let me find one. I think it's down here in the vines maybe, or the swirls. Let's see, there's a particular one that I want to use in the opposite side of my design because it fits really well. And now, of course, you could flip through these and try one, and if it does not work, you just remove it and then try again. So it's really that simple. So, but I know for a fact which one I want, so I was just looking for that design, and it's this one right here called Vine. So this design here is for a triangle, and you can see triangle is in the name. So I'm going to click OK, and it adds that onto my workspace. And so you can see this is a quilting design, but it does have multiple parts. So every one of the built-in embellishments have an artwork outline, and it has the actual stitching itself. So I don't need the artwork outline in this case, so I'm going to just select it and remove it. And I know that it's the artwork because it says it over here, and I just press delete. Now I'm going to show you what you want that artwork for in just a bit. And I'm going to rotate this around, and then just place it in this corner. And now I want to resize that. So I'm going to stretch it larger to embellish that half of my block. Now the centerpiece here, let's do something a little bit different. And I know someone out there is probably asking too about these fill stitches over here, but I'm going to show you how you can get the look of your block underneath it. Okay, so now let's create something for the center. So I'm showing you 3 different ways to create quilting. This is a quilting fill. This is a built-in embellishment. And then in the center, I can actually use my artwork tools to draw a design. So I'm going to just draw this little leaf shape here, and I'm going to copy it, paste it, copy, paste, and then I'm going to rotate that around, or you could also mirror image it if you want. And then I'm going to just slide that down, select both of them, copy, paste, and then I'm going to rotate that 45. And now let's select all 4 of them. I'm going to copy, paste, and then make that one a smidge smaller, put it back to the center. And I could leave it like that, which actually looks kind of cute, but my intention was just to rotate it around so it looks like that. Okay. So now this is an artwork design. So if I select this, go over here to my sequence view, I can see that it is artwork. There are no stitches at this point. So if I select the whole thing, I can click to turn that into a run stitch up here on my toolbar, just like that. Now, if I see in my sequence view, it says that these are all run stitches. So I just created another quilting design that fits nicely in my center part here. So now these 3 different quilting designs are probably the 3 main ways that you can create a quilting design in your My Quilt Embellisher. You can use the quilting fills, you can use the built-in embellishments, or you can create your own, which is what I did here in the center using artwork tools. Okay. Now let's talk about this here. So I'm gonna, because the fills need a shape, when you select the shape, you are turning that into the stitches. So let's go back to our same block here, and I'm going to slide that off to the side. And if you want to keep these so that you can tell what it looks like behind it, you can simply just make a copy of this. So if you copy it, paste it, and then I like to group that together so that that one stays together. And I'm actually going to send that one to the back. I should have selected the and grouped the one on top. But now this particular block that is grouped together, it remains here. So now I have 2 copies of it. Okay. So I'm going to put this block behind here. It's just a visual. That's all I'm doing. Just giving you a visual aid. And then I'm going to delete because I've got 2 layers. Remember, these blocks right here are duplicates. Okay. And my stitches here, let's make that a lighter color so we can see it. Okay. So that's how you can use the blocks as a visual if you want to copy and paste it, because anytime you select a block, in fact, let's select all of these again, and then just choose a different shape here so that you can see. You can see how every block is turned into stitches. So I don't have that artwork block behind it anymore. And so I like to make a copy, and that way if I'm designing on top of it, I can see what it looks like. So, and all those circles actually look kind of cool, don't they? So I love that. Okay, so that is an easy way to create a custom quilting design using the built-in blocks. Now, remember, when you're using built-in blocks, you are selecting the block that is in your quilt in order to be able to create a design that is for that particular block. So the one thing that I didn't mention that's very important is you want to make sure that you resize your block to the same size as the block in your actual quilt top so that you know things will match. So okay, so that is the very basics of getting started here with my quilt embellisher. And let's see if we have any questions before we move on to the next step. So thank you guys for your patience with the, oh, my camera is then blurry. And so I don't know. technology. You gotta love it. So I have no idea why it's not clearing up. But let's see if we have any questions. So you don't have to see my face clearly to get a answer to your question. So let's see what we've got going on here. Okay. So, if you do have a question, I see some of you guys did. So put those question marks before, and it just helps me pick it out of the group there. So, Terry says on the shape fill, can you move the X in the center to change the origin of the shape? Yes, you absolutely can. So you can change the center point, and of some of the fills, you can also change the angle. And when I go back over, I'll show you that here in just a second. That's a really good question. So angles and start point. So we'll talk about that. Okay, and then Terry also says, you can tell Terry uses her software a ton. I love these questions, Terry. So Terry also says, Ashley, on the quilting fill, some of the designs do not appear to be complete on the outside of the border. Can you close the design? So yes, I would add an additional run stitch in order to give that a nice finished edge. And I'll do that also when we go back in there. Okay, and then Carolyn Morrow says, does My Block Piecer have any of the quilting design? So My Block Piecer will only create a run stitch, but that means that you can turn any block that's in the library into that run stitch, so you can create all of those built-in shapes with the built-in fills in My Block Piecer. So My Block Piecer only has just a single run stitch. It does not have the quilting fills, and it does not have the built-in embellishments. So another great questions there. And then Harriet Ann Palmer, she is normally my neighbor there, but looks like she's in Dallas. Thanks for joining while you are traveling. And so Cindy Ashton, on the middle quilting line design, can you combine it so that it sees it as one? You absolutely can. So that same combine tool will do the same thing. And then Laura says she wants to learn the heirloom stitches. I'll make sure to show you that also, Laura. So very good question. And then can I open a foreign block and add heirloom? So yes, you can bring in an image of your block if you'd like. You can also bring in artwork blocks. There are some programs that have artwork blocks that you can download and bring those into the software as well. So it's just a vector format that you're looking for. So, okay, so let's go back over to the software, and then I'll show you a couple of other answers to those questions. So as far as the edges of this design, as Terry pointed out, you've got some broken edges here. And so what I'm going to do, let me do an undo here. And I'm actually going to hide my block so that we can see those better on the screen. So I'll also hide that shape there. And so this is the design that we're left with. Remember, our artwork block is only for design purposes. It's not really doing anything else for us. But Terry pointed out that there are broken edges here. So the reason you've got these broken edges is because the software does its absolute best to stitch so that it doesn't overwrite itself any more than it has to, so that you get a single ply design. So when that happens, sometimes it has to run down and it leaves a break in the exterior. So what I usually do is just take my same shape, copy it, paste it, and now I just pasted that same thing on top of the other one. And so if I slide it out of the way, you can see that. But what I'm going to do with one of them selected is just click my run stitch, and then it'll add that run stitch line there around the outside. So, and it did add the run stitch line there through the blocks. And so I have no idea why it did that. Why am I having so many technical issues today? Usually it just outlines that shape around the edge, which is definitely what you want. And I'll show you that again. I think it'll make more sense. Now, I think it was Laura, or maybe it was Terry also, that asked about combining this. So it sees that as one object. And yes, you can. So my combine tool is illuminated. So if I click that, it now sees that as one object as well. So it's just one single run, whereas before it was 8 different runs for that design that we created. So another really great question there. And then Laura was asking about the heirloom stitches. So Laura, I'll do that coming up here in just a bit. So, okay, so now let's go to a new page and let's just see some other things that you can do with these built-in fills. So I'm going to choose another block again. And for this one, let's go to this basic category because I can show you another really awesome technique with that combine. Okay, so remember, if this is the block that's in your quilt and you want to create a quilting design that is specific for this block, you want to make sure that it is the correct size. So say you've got a 12-inch block that is a 4-patch, so then this finished block might be 6-inch finished. So you enter 6 and click apply, and it'll resize that design to the 6-inch finished design so that you can design right on top of it. So now let me select the 4 corners, and remember, we can choose any of these built-in designs that you see here. These are the quilting fills. Remember, you can do that. So let's choose a shape fill here for the center, and I'm going to do this star. Oh, wait, I had the wrong one selected, but that's okay. Let's go to this circle. So I want the circle on the outside. And you can see that it sees this as 4 separate corners, which it is. But if you want it to be those concentric circles, then use that combine tool and you can see now it sees it all as one. And then again, if you copy and paste that and then just turn the second one into the run stitch, you'll get that nice finished stitching around the edge. Now for the center, I'm going to go back and I'm going to choose the star, and let's talk about these different shape points that I think either Laura or Terry asked. So I'll show you that coming up next. Okay, so now we've got this fill in the center, and that is some really tight quilting. So I'm going to adjust this density here, and it'll spread out the space between my stitches. And I'm going to just change the color so we see the difference in the two. Okay, so now we've got a circle on the outside and a star on the inside. If I choose my shape tool, and I see that I now get a green, red, and this purple dot. And then I've got my points that are making my shape. Okay, so this purple dot is the center of the start point. So if I want it to actually start to make this star shape in a different location, I can pull that away and then either hit the enter on your keyboard or you can do a right mouse click, and you can see now it kind of starburst up and to the left there. And so you can move that. Now the red and the green dot is the start and stop point for where the run stitches are happening. So you can change that as well by moving your start and stop point by just clicking and dragging that dot. Notice when I hover over, the color behind my cursor changes, so I know that that's the shape that I have selected there. Okay, so you can change that or that start point. Now for the 4 triangles around the corner there, I'm going to break them up. So if you combine it and you decide you don't want them combined, then you click the break up, and now you can see I've got 4 separate ones. And so now let's choose a different fill here. So for this one, let's do, I need something that's directional so that we can see that definite, this one actually right here would be good. You can definitely see that direction change. So you can see that my chevron shape runs across my block this way on all 4 of them. If you want to change the direction so they match, your shape tool again, that's the tool right underneath the select tool there, and click on that shape, and you see that I get this yellow line. That is the angle line. I'm still getting my green and red dot for the stop and start, but I can change the angle of this stitching by changing that line. Now I can go all the way flat and go back to my 90 if I want. And you can see that that's probably what I would want for my stitching to follow around my block. And so let's change this one at the bottom as well. So I'm going to pick one of these points and I'm going to drag it, and then you can see that that flips around. Now you can drag that all the way around to the opposite way, it doesn't really matter. We're at that same angle with this angle line here, but you can see if I move it and then do my right mouse click or enter, it's changing the angle of the direction of my stitches. So that's the angle line, that yellow line, and the red and the green are the start and the stop points for that fill. So remember, these are quilting fills. So when I selected my block pieces and I selected one of these built-in fills, it fills that shape with my design. Okay, so, and that's very important because if you have a block that you've imported an image, you need to create the shape in order to use the fill. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. Okay, so that is changing the angle of your stitches with these built-in fills. Now let's talk about creating a quilting that will do this echo. So do you see how everything I've done, this echo quilting up here in the top for my quilting fills, has not become active because we don't have anything to echo, because you need a shape. Okay, so now I'm just gonna remove the fill from the center, and let's just add turn that back into our artwork. So I'm going to click my artwork tool here, and this is not necessary. You could have gone from that quilting fill to another stitch, but me showing you the artwork, I think it's easier to understand what is about to happen. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here to these embellishments. Remember I told you that each one of these embellishments has an artwork shape around that design. So you can see my quilting design, and then there's an artwork shape around the edge. The reason for that is you can use that artwork shape. So I'm going to select it over here in my sequence view. You can see that only the artwork is illuminated. And I'm going to hold down my control key and select the red block. And then now when I choose that combine option, you can see that it does that cookie cutter kind of effect, and it's actually punched a hole in my center diamond there. Now, because it's punched that hole and I have this selected, you can see that my echo is now illuminated because it has a shape that it can echo. There you go, just like that. And I'll show you that again because I'm going to show you with a design that is, another design that you may own. Okay, so that's the echo quilting, and that's the reason for the artwork around those embellishments. Okay, so let's go to another page here, and then let me show you echo a design that you bring in that doesn't have that built-in artwork, and then we'll answer some questions here. So this time I'm going to use this snowball block here. Remember, don't forget to set this to the size of your quilt block if this is the block that's in your quilt. And then for this, I'm going to bring in a design. So this, I'm going to just use this butterfly here. Everybody has this butterfly, so if you want to duplicate what I'm doing, it's under your regular design. So in my design library, under the main category, that's the ETS butterfly. And I'm just going to make it larger. Butterflies are great for our quilts, right? So now this does not have the artwork shape around it. So if I want to echo or I want to quilt around this butterfly, I need that artwork shape. So if you do a right mouse click on your design that you bring into the software, under utility, you have the option for create outline. Now, when I click the preview, you can see that I have it set for a 0.08 distance, and it draws a line around my shape for me. Okay, and I'm fine with that, and I'm going to say okay. And you can see that it puts that right around my butterfly. So remember, to punch that hole, I want to select the artwork around the butterfly, and I want to select the center shape, and together I can do the combine. And now it has punched a hole. If I change the color of this so we can see it, you can see it's punched a hole because I combined the two. So now I can select my purple block, and I could do that echo. So I can echo any design that I bring into the software in this manner. That also means that if I don't want to echo it, but I just want to create my quilting design around it, I can do so by choosing that design now because I've punched out that hole, so it will not quilt over that area. So isn't that cool? That's actually one of my favorite things that I do with My Quilt Embellisher, is creating these echo designs, but also quilting designs around my other embroidery designs. Now, let's say that this is your block that you wanted to quilt, and I'm just going to do a bunch of undos to make this all one again. And say you don't want a different quilting for those corner pieces. Well, you need an entire square if you want the quilting to go over those. Okay, so what you can do is you can draw your own square or possibly combine. I'm not going to try that again because it didn't do as I expected. So we're going to draw a square here, but try your combined. So sometimes I have glitchy things go on because I need a reboot on my software, things like that. And then I'm going to hide these so you can see what's going on. Now you can see that that's my artwork outline around my butterfly. And this is the rectangle that I just drew by choosing my artwork tool and then clicking and dragging. So I need to combine these two here. Okay, so I'm going to fill those and click apply so that you can see what's happening. So if I select everything and click the combine, then you can see that it punched the hole. Now you do not have to change your artwork to fill in order to combine these. The reason I change it is because when I combine those, it doesn't show anything on the screen, but I can definitely see that it merged them all in one as the artwork. So you don't have to change the color to a fill. It's just easier to see on the screen. And then now when I create that echo, so now I'm going to turn back on my eye for my butterfly. You can see we echoed. And then if I turn back on the image of my block, we have now echoed all the way out to the edge of the block, which is something else that you can do there. So like I said, one of my main features, just remember, or main that I use is that echo quilting. Just remember that you do have to have a design to echo. So let's see if we have any questions that we need to answer. And so Laura, I still got you on my radar for those heirloom stitches. So we will, I'll show you those after this break. And then can I open a foreign block? I did answer that. And yes, you can. And I'm going to show you how to do that next episode 2 weeks from now. And then Linda says, what about seam allowances around your block? So when you put in the measurement, you're going to put in the finish measurement. So if your block is a 6-inch block in your quilt, then that usually means that unfinished, it's 6.5, but finished it's 6. So if you put in your 6-inch finished into the software, then you are not going to be stitching over that seam allowance because, of course, it'll be in the seam allowance. So put in your finished measurement, and then your design will fit that particular size that you put in. And then Shelly says, is it possible to do multi-hooping with the software if the block is bigger than your hoop? Yes, I would break that design into the size that's going to fit into my block, into my hoop, sorry. And I'll show you that when I go back over there. So heirloom and a design bigger than our block. And so that seems like dense quilting. Yes, that one was really tight. Hopefully that if you're talking about the echo, let's head back over here. If Jennifer, if you mean the echo that I'm doing, you can change that. I just did not. So over in the properties where it says density or pattern, if you increase that number, it will it'll spread out those stitches. So that density is referring to the distance between the stitches. So the greater the number, the more distance between those rows of stitching. So you can certainly change that if you'd like. Okay, so let's go and answer a couple of those other questions that we just brought up. And so the seam allowance, we talked about that. So make sure you do that finished block. And then Laura, let's talk about those heirloom stitches. So you probably are going to want to bring in an image of your block for this. And I'll just see if I've got something that will work here, because if you're doing heirloom stitches, a lot of times we do that on a crazy quilt block. And those are, I'll use one of these twist blocks. So that will probably suffice. Actually, any block would do, but this is what I think of when I think of those stitches. And I'm going to select it, and then you would set the size, so 8 inches, whatever your block is. And then next week, if you'll join me, I'll show you how to do this on an image. So set your size, and then for this particular instance, I'm going to group this together so it does not move. Okay, so up here under this icon that says symbols, you have the option for this special motif. Those are those heirloom crazy quilt type stitches. Now, when you select one, you have several different options of what to do. You can click and drag, and also when you click and drag, you can see that I can even rotate it, okay? So click and drag, and you can make it as large as you want. Release your mouse, and then click again, and then drag, click and drag, click and drag, and you can actually make a really cool pattern. And the reason this is created to do so in this manner is so you get a look of hand stitching, because when we do things by hand, it's not so perfect. If you do want them all to be the same size, just click one time on the screen and then click and then click, moving to each point, and you can see that it's giving me the stitch of the same exact size, okay? So now let's zoom into our block, and let's do that right on one of these seams. So I'm going to go up and let's choose a different one. So special motif, and then I'm going to choose this feather, and then I'm just going to click and click and drag, and make that stitching just like that. And that's how you use the heirloom stitches in My Quilt Embellisher. And you could do that for each of those seams on your block. And again, I really feel like this is best used for a block that is your own crazy quilt block. And so in that case, you'd want to import an image. Now, each one of these, I haven't said this yet, but each one of these designs are just a quilting design that we're going to be saving. So if I just hide my block, that is the actual quilting design part. So if we flip back over to what we were working on over here, when we save this, the artwork block in the background means nothing to us. It's really just this quilting and our embroidery if you're going to be doing something like this for the embroidery. And the same is the case for this here. You can see this is just my quilting design. So once you have finished designing, you'll just choose File and Save As. And then from this drop down, select the format for your embroidery machine and then click Save It, and it's ready to go to stitch out at your machine. I always like to save in a C2S as well. That native format makes it easier to come back and make changes because then I can just simply select my block and then apply a different quilting design if I want. Whereas if I had done the PES file, I wouldn't be able to just select and change in that manner. Okay, so the last thing I'll show here too is that block that's larger than your hoop. So if you are doing something that is a say a 4-patch block or a 12-inch block, so let me just grab a like this pinwheel here, and say this is a 12-inch finished block. Okay, I got my 12-inch block. What I would do, now I do have a hoop that I can quilt half of this at one time. There is no way to split up a design like this Echo quilting. I cannot split that up in My Quilt Embellisher. So what I would recommend doing is designing half at a time. So these embellishments work great for that. So you could choose a design that would work really well for duplicating. And this is actually one of my favorites because it is, let me check, it's one of my leaves here. And I think I just passed it, that one right there. So do you see how we have this single leaf and we have the double and the 4 and then the triangle? So if I just have one of these and I center this up and then I'm going to resize that to fit my block, I can copy and paste this one, mirror image it. Whoop, I need to select it. select it, select it. Now I don't need that artwork outline anymore, so I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to copy it, paste it, my copy paste, and then I'm going to mirror image, and then I can move this over. Now, because I have, and I can use my alignment tools here to make sure I'm aligned, and now I can just copy and paste both of those, mirror image, and drag that down. Okay, just like that. So now what I've done is I've created a quilting design for a 12-inch block, and I can just quilt this half at a time, these two designs here. Or if I don't even have a hoop that's 12 inches long or more, then I can actually just use one of these designs, quilt this corner, and then rotate my design to quilt the other four corners. So that is the best thing to do. If you have our Perfect Embroidery Pro, it will split a design down the middle. You certainly could do that, but you're going to have to then link that up just like you're doing edge to edge quilting. So just keep that in mind. So this example, for instance, if you were to split that down the middle because you don't have a hoop large enough, you would have to make sure that when you stitch the other half, you have to connect every one of these points so that it looks like, you know, it was done in one big hoop. That's why I really feel like it's much easier to design with your hoop size in mind. So hopefully that helps you there. So let's see what other questions that we might have. So the multi-hooping, we answered that. And then once you've created, how do you save to your machine? I just went over that. I must have been reading your mind, April. So once you've created the design, it's just as simple as going to File and Save As. And then you can choose the location on your computer that you want to save it. And don't forget to choose the format for your embroidery machine. We save to all formats for all embroidery machine brands, even commercial formats. Choose that format, and then you can put it on a USB stick or however you normally transfer, you know, your design. So that's the easiest way to do it. And then Terry said, Ashley, if you have PEP, could you split the butterfly design? Yes, you sure could. I think I read your mind also, Terry. So yes, you can split that for a larger hoop for sure. But just remember, you'll have to two designs, and then all those points, you'll link those up, which honestly, with some of our technology these days, that's actually not an issue, you know, for sure. So so hopefully that answers everybody's questions, and we're going to go into more detail the next time that we are here, which is in 2 weeks. We're going to do Quilt Embellisher again, and we'll go into more details. And so I do want to make sure that you are aware of how to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also following us on Facebook, because you'll get notifications for these Software Success. Software Success is the first and the third Tuesday of every month. And of course, you can come and learn your software, but what you learn in your software today also translates to some of our other programs as well. So let's see this video of how to like and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook.
In this video, we'll show you how to subscribe to a YouTube channel and follow a Facebook page. Let's start with YouTube. First, open your web browser and navigate to youtube.com. Once you're on your home page, search for Designs in Machine Embroidery in the search bar at the top of the screen. Click on it and go to the channel page. Once on the channel page, click the subscribe button. And that's it. You're now subscribed to the channel. Now, let's move on to Facebook. Once you're on your home page, search for Designs in Machine Embroidery in the search bar at the top of the screen. When you find the page you want to follow, click on it and go to the page. Once on the page, click the 3 dots on the right side and select the follow button. And that's it. Now you're following the page. Thanks for watching.
So make sure you do that so that you can be notified of when we go live, because it's not just our Software Success. Eileen, every Thursday at 1 p.m. also has a live presentation that gives you the lots of help on embroidery, but also she does usually a little snippet of software as well. So in 2 weeks, when we come back, we're going to talk Quilt Embellisher again. And I do see that another question popped up from Cindy. Cindy, I'll answer your question more in detail next week, but yes, you absolutely can. So Cindy's asking if you can bring in a line design and turn it into a quilting design, and you absolutely can. And I'll show you how to auto trace that next week, but I'm also going to show you how you can trace on the screen as well. So that's all coming up for creating your own custom quilting designs in 2 weeks from now. We'll also talk about bringing in an image, and we'll also talk about a custom block. If you cannot find your block in the block library, we'll talk about that as well. And I'm going to show you also how to create a quilt label in My Quilt Embellisher. So join me in 2 weeks for the second part of My Quilt Embellisher. So make sure that you check with your local Inspiration Dime dealer for any specials on any of the software that we're talking about. Today, I was showing features from My Quilt Embellisher. So if you're interested in My Quilt Embellisher, check with your local dealer. They can give you the best special price on any of our Dime software. If you do not have a dealer near, we do have it also on our page. You can check that out as well at dzgns.com for the My Quilt Embellisher program. So hopefully you guys learned a lot today. Thank you for bearing with me with the technology challenges. There always seems to be something when you're going live, sometimes not so noticeable, but sometimes more than others. So thank you so much for joining and asking all of your questions. And I will see you back here for Software Success in 2 weeks.